Hey, welcome everybody. We're here with my dear friend Ming Chen and myself, Amy too. Ming, I'm hearing a weird sound. What is that? Is that you or me? Oh my gosh! Wow, you have that's not me, is it? you can talk in the chat. Anyway, while Ming figures out his sound, welcome to our special weekend show, celebrating Asian Americans Pacific Islander Heritage Month, which is a mouthful. We have a whole slate of guests ready to talk to. This will be super informal. You doing good, Ming? Yeah, you're doing, yeah. Anyway, and as you can tell, we're all in comics, not the, there's two of Ming. Okay.
Yes, there we go. Sorry about that. I have no idea why my sound just cut out on this other
because
one.
That's what tech does, It's like
yes.
That's disproving the trope of the Asian, nerd. No, that's not true. Anyway, so
I know, but you know what I did learn always from my dad, who's an engineer, and just from very experienced, always have a backup. So I literally have a command center here. I just always be prepared, right?
Always be prepared. So, always be prepared. Yeah. Yes. Wait, so before we bring our guests on, I want to hear more about your cool trip.
Of course we're all in the comics and pop culture industry, and part of that is going to conventions, and unfortunately, the conventions were all wiped out last year, and so I didn't get to see any of my friends and the parties and the meeting people and being amongst our people. And I really miss that, as I'm sure everybody did. But I think me and you especially, we were on the road so much that my kids were like, "What are you doing home?" So they had to get used to me being home.
What are you doing home?
Yeah, it was literally like, "What are you doing home?" I was like, "Well, I live here. This is my house." So this past weekend, I was in Pensacola, Florida, for a really, really great Comic-Con called Pensacon, celebrating their 8th year. One of the greatest ones out there, which next year we got to get you in. I'm making my life's mission to get you to Pensacon next year. And and I mean, normally you wouldn't think of Pensacola as a hotbed of pop culture and Comic-Cons, but they normally get about 35,000 people to come out. So
that's significant. Wow.
Yeah. And the fact that they're able to pull everything together, they had to postpone it's usually in February, postponed to May. And the crowds came out, the guests came out, the people came out. It was safe. Nobody got sick. People wore masks, and I was sitting here a year ago going, this might never come back. And it saddened me greatly. And that's the only thing I wanted to do is walk around Artist Alley at a Comic-Con and talk to artists and see my friends. And now I'm fully confident everything's going to come back. So,
awesome.
So yeah, that was part one of the trip. And since I was only 3 hours from the great city of New Orleans, which we both know and love, I took a side trip over there as well. And they're slowly reopening over there as well.
So jealous. I am so jealous.
Wow. Yeah, and I think that was one of the last times I saw you, my friend, was in New Orleans at Big Easy Comic-Con.
That's right. Oh my God, that was so much fun. Those were goodies too, right?
Yeah.
Well, speaking of good friends and friends that we really missed during convention time, right? So we decided we would line up. I decided I would line up all the people I haven't seen in a long time.
Sure.
And I think this is kind of overdue, right? We should celebrate the people we know in comics, and especially for this month. This is the month of May, and we're lucky to catch the tail end of it. But all my friends of Asian American Pacific Islander heritage. So I thought we would bring on one of my oldest friends, I think, Ramon Gil.
Hi, Ramon.
Hi, Amy.
Good to see you. So I've known you for how long? I mean, actually,
since A Magazine.
Since A Magazine, like what, early 90s?
Early 90s. Oh my God. In fact, I recently posted a picture some friends at a party, and the party was at your apartment with Pam.
What was that on your Facebook feed? Okay, I gotta look that
On my
up.
Facebook feed. Yeah.
Yeah, all right, I gotta
I'm
look
not sure
it
you'll
up.
recognize the background as your
It was
apartment.
on my apartment. So we had this apartment in Hell's Kitchen that we used to throw like really cool parties. I thought they were really cool because my friend Pam worked at Sesame Street, so she would have like people.
I got her that interview.
Yeah. So Ramon. So tell us first of all a little bit about yourself, because I actually did not know that you actually had a certainly when we were connected, that was like when all your not so secret history came, but it just never occurred to me that you were in comics before. So talk about your journey for us.
Yeah, I was in comics back in the early 90s. I was working for Vortex Comics, doing NASCAR biographies. So I learned more about NASCAR than I ever wanted to. And then when the economy tanked in, what was that, 94? I guess it was 94. I basically switched to advertising, and I was in advertising for a couple of years. And then I saw Amy switch her careers to comic books, and I thought, you know what, I should do that. So I gave it another shot, and I actually took Amy out to lunch and picked her brain, and she gave me some great advice. So we had lunch at that restaurant in Koreatown, at the top of the building.
When was that?
That must have been 2014.
Okay.
So she gave me all this advice, and I've been following the advice to a T. I've been doing panels, I've been doing anthologies, short stories, things like that. And things actually work out pretty well. So so now I just finished a 6th grade graphic novel for Benchmark Press. I organized Diversity Comic Con over at FIT where I teach. Amy was our guest, one of our guests last year, and I also lead something called the Comic Arts Workshop, which is an online school for people who want to do comic books. Not like comic experience for people that really want to work for DC or Marvel. These are more like Comic Arts Workshops, more like the laid back version of comic experience for people who are like in middle age who just want to do it as a hobby, or want to do it because they want to get the storyteller out of them. So, and the one thing I want to plug though is I've decided, and I've started telling people this, that in February 2022 is going to be our first Comic Arts Symposium. So I'm announcing that here and in other places, so I have to do it now. And it's going to be basically TED Talks for the comic book industry.
That sounds fantastic.
So
that's awesome. Yeah, usually the TED Talks like, hey, tell me about, they I guess they give you a theme usually, and you have to kind of fit around that. But an all comics industry symposium, that's amazing. I think the only problem with the TED Talk, they're like that will give you 8 minutes. Like I was like 8, I can't do this in 8 minutes. Like yeah, so you got to condense it. That's awesome.
I got to figure out the logistics still, but that's always been my dream. And interestingly enough, the pandemic showed me that you can do things online. It doesn't have necessarily, you don't always have to have a physical venue. You can do it online. And that's when I launched the Comic Arts Workshop, and I realized I didn't have to rent classroom space in New York City, which would have been cost prohibitive.
Oh, for sure. Hey, so Ramon, let's talk about, I have a bunch of questions, but anyone out there who wants to ask questions too, feel free to, I don't know, put in the chat and there's Nick. Hey, Nick.
What's up, Nick?
So like I said, Ramon, I've known forever, it seems. And I guess the biggest question for me is like, how was it trying to get back into comics? Was it difficult? Did you feel as old hat? I mean, was my advice really that useful?
It was very useful. But what I didn't factor in was how cocky I was. After working in advertising, you think, well, I'm an art director, I know how to network, blah, blah, blah. But really, comics is like you were exactly right, Amy. You said it was going to take about 5 years before I would see any traction, and it took that long, despite all the networking and all the panels I tried to get on and things like that. And and even now I'm not. I've done some work for Dynamite, but it's not like they're knocking on my door every month. So So you're right. It's hard to get in, and it's harder to stay in.
Right. That is for sure. Yeah. So Ramon, you started off more as an artist, right? But would you characterize yourself as a writer, artist, or more writer now? Like,
when I was doing comics in the 90s, I was an illustrator. And then when I came back in 2014, I came back as a writer. And I'm slowly shifting into going back into art. I actually, I'm in my entering my last year of my master's program in illustration. And I'm hoping that when I come out with it, my drawing skills will be honed again, except that the one thing that's interesting is that when I was drawing back in the 90s, it was very, Marvel DC style. Image was hot back then. And now it's like I'm gravitating more towards the original graphic novel style, like Raina Teitelmeier and Marjane Satrapi, that kind of stuff, which I think actually works better for the kind of stories I want to tell now. Not so much action stuff, but more like, more about life. So
I loved you're an established artist. You've done a ton, and yet you're like, I need to learn more, and you went back and furthered your education. Um, I you mentioned that you're going to come out of this an even better artist.
I
think
hope so. I hope so.
I mean, I have a good feeling. I have a good feeling that's going to happen. What made you go back and be like, I'm going to keep going, and learn more?
Primarily because I enjoy teaching, and I've taught at FIT and I've taught at Parsons. In both cases, I got those jobs because I knew somebody. And the thing is with colleges is they won't look at you unless you have a master's or a friend working there. So I don't have a friend. I might not have a friend working where other places I might want to teach at. So I figured I should get my master's. And I'm learning. Amazing. I'm learning a lot. I got really lucky. If anybody wants to get a master's in comic book creation, FIT, it's not an official comic book master's program, but the chairperson is a comic book guy. He's a Zirkis award winner, and there's a big emphasis on graphic novel storytelling at the FIT MFA illustration program. I did not know
that. That's fantastic. Good to know for sure. Well, let's talk about your childhood.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your childhood. Let's talk about your family. Talk about your heritage, because that's a little bit of this month. And how did that influence or not influence? Was this a problem, or was your family okay with everything that you're doing?
Well, I'm Filipino. I actually grew up in the Philippines, and I went to high school and college in California. And my mom was worried about me being an artist, so she was always trying to steer me into like architecture or something like that, But in the end, I guess, they didn't really try to push me that hard out of art. And I graduated with a general art degree. I quickly became a graphic designer, an art director, creative director. So it wasn't so bad. And in the Philippines, growing up in the Philippines, I was exposed to comic books very early on. My grandmother worked for a publishing company, and they owned a chain of bookstores. And so we would go into these bookstores, and she would let me basically use her store credit to buy as many comic books as I wanted.
Oh,
so everything on the shelf I would just pick up, right?
That's
and that's how I got addicted to comic books, just through all those comic books that my grandmother would let me buy. And then I came to this country, and I could draw, and and one thing, and then next thing you know, I'm just like took art for college, and and stuck the course.
Well,
so that's so amazing that your grandmother was such a big influence in that way, right? If she had not done that, do you feel like you would still gone this route?
I'm not so sure. She definitely got me interested in reading, but she was a writer, and so was my uncle was a writer. So except she wrote elementary school textbooks, and my uncle, her son, was a journalist. So there's always been a writer in the family. But early on I was always drawing. It wasn't until later on that I, as part of being, when I went into advertising and I started my own company, I started writing a lot, blogs especially. And my blogs were usually involved some stories, some storytelling in there. And from there, it wasn't that hard to jump from storytelling in my business blog to comic books, to writing comic books.
Still, that's to have that flexibility though, to be able to do both is amazing. Yeah, usually, I in my experience, I meet people do one or the other, and they're very good at one or the other. To be proficient at both, it's like being ambidextrous. It's like being able to write with your left. do things with your left and right hand. That's
I don't know about that. I think I'm okay with both. I'm not sure if I'm great with both. So we'll see.
You know, mark of a true creator that you're never happy. You're never happy
Yeah,
with
never happy.
never happy with yourself.
In fact, I even though I'm in my MFA program, I've been working on projects, and I just bring in other illustrators to do the stories, just because I'm never happy with my own work. You know, so I'm actually working on a piece that I'm going to be submitting to heavy metal, and there's this thing called speed painting, and mostly it's like when artists like paint digitally within an hour, that they choose a theme, and they have to paint something within the hour, and mostly it's science fiction themes, and these guys are amazing. And so I found one guy who did it, and I'm doing a sci-fi story that we're submitting to heavy metal. But like when I thought about it, because I recently interviewed Joe Illich for the Comic Arts Workshop, and he said that the most important thing about a submission to heavy metal was that the artwork has to be impeccable. And I realized that if I'm going to submit this story, I can't draw it because I'm not at impeccable yet. so I got somebody else who was.
But soon, right? Soon.
Yeah. Well, hopefully.
Yeah.
Wow, that's the word impeccable. I mean, it's definitely relative, but that's impeccable. So close to like perfect. The word perfect. Like, oh man, it's a lot of pressure.
So you look at heavy metal; it's always had really amazing art, you know. And as an art director, I can see that I'm not at that level. So.
But don't you feel like, you know, here's the thing I felt, you know, as sort of getting into comics kind of later in life, is that even though you may feel like or I've certainly felt that it was a little bit of an age disadvantage, there was in fact an advantage in experience, you know, like you have the experience of being an art director, you have the experience of doing a lot of different things. Do you feel like that's really the case for you?
Absolutely, but I think the other thing that you and I have, Amy, is a lot of really developed soft skills. You know, we know how to network, we know how to build relationships, we know how to reach out to people and make them into allies. You know, we know how to find those connections, how to make those connections, and also we know how to find resources and use them appropriately. So, and we also know how to just, you know, how to play nice with everybody else. I see so many people who don't know how to play nice in this small community, and then they get themselves blacklisted. I have a list of people who I will not work with because they just, you know, weren't very nice to either me or somebody I know, and you know, and it's a small community. Everybody knows each other. Word travels fast. If you're not a nice person, nobody wants to work with you.
I mean, comics is a team. You know, this is the one thing that I realized almost immediately. You know, if you want to be just like a solo person, do something else. You don't need to do comics. You know,
exactly.
Right? If I want to be a writer and I don't play nice, I could just write my own novel. Why do comics? You know, you really. The whole, for me, the whole thing about how wonderful comics is working with other people. You know, working with the
collaborative,
with the editors, with the publishers. That's really like the fun part, I think. And the food, you know, this is soft skills, right? Bribing people with beignets in New Orleans is very important, right?
Well, I took you out to lunch to pick your brains. So
yeah, it worked. I was like, oh, free lunch. No, you know, of course I wanted to catch up with you. And it's, look where we are now. We get to like talk like this. So it's fantastic.
Exactly.
So go ahead.
I mean, just never deny the power of a free lunch, though. It's pretty powerful. Yeah, whether it be in New York or soup dumplings in Seattle, never deny that power.
Right, and we're saying this here. Anyone can take us out to lunch. We're easily bribable, right?
It's official for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. So Ramon, there's a whole history of really amazing, hardworking, talented Filipino artists. Did you feel like that also helped you in any way? Was there a network? I know there's a whole wave of people in the 70s that did some amazing things. Rudy Nebres, I met at oh my gosh, so nice, and like his artwork was amazing.
Yeah, Rudy did the artwork for my first anthology, Sci-Fis. So that was very nice of him.
Wow, that's amazing.
It was an amazing cover. So nothing that I could have done.
Right.
But yeah, I remember meeting Tony DeZuniga back when I was younger. And whenever he's in town, I always chat up with Will Sportacio. And the first couple of comic books that I did, I mainly used artists from the Philippines. People like Louis Antonio, Roy Allen Martinez. These are guys who are now making waves in the comic book industry. But most of them studied under Will's actually.
Oh, is that right? Okay. I did not know that. I had heard that he had mentored quite a few people, but
Will's had a studio in the Philippines, and a lot of what's his name? The guy who did, I can't remember his name. Not Miko Sayusan, the other guy, Linnell Yu, I think that's his
Lionel
name.
Yu, yeah.
Linnell Yu. Yeah, he was one of Will's students at that studio, or proteges at that studio. So, but Jerry Angu Elan, who recently passed away, was also part of that group. But there's a whole group of whenever Wills goes back to the Philippines, they all get together and just and have a reunion.
So nice. That's great. That's great. And do you go back to the Philippines often at all?
Not as often as I'd like. It's been about 10 years since the last time I went, but we're planning to go next year. We were supposed to go last year, but of course the pandemic hit. So.
All right. Since we're talking about the Philippines, and my heart is with food, as Ming is. Do you have? Do you cook? Do you have some favorite dishes?
Yes,
I know we
cook.
talked about this a little bit because I was supposed to do this cooking anthology, which is still there, but I have not quite gotten there yet.
I'm waiting for it.
Let's talk about food. What can you cook? What can you cook for us?
Oh, I can cook adobo. I can cook something called nilaga, which is the beef version, but I also cook sinigang, which is the salmon version, and it's basically salmon with vegetables and a tamarind broth. And it's a little bit bitter, but it's an acquired taste that I think the Filipinos like. I cook something called menudo, which sounds Spanish, but it's basically pork and vegetables and liver in a tomato sauce. But lots of different dishes. So, when at one point, because we live in Midtown East, but at one point we moved to Brooklyn so my wife could open up her daycares over there. And it forced me, because we didn't have easy access to Filipino food while in Brooklyn. It forced me to learn how to cook a lot of the dishes. So that was the upside of living in Brooklyn. I learned how to make all these dishes. And so now when I go to a restaurant, I just make sure that I go to a Filipino restaurant, I make sure I just order things that I can cook.
Oh yeah, I think I think that's part of our culinary experience. You're never going to order something that you can easily make yourself. Adobo though is something I got heavily into over the quarantine. I met a half Filipino woman who gave me her recipe, and I seriously think it changed my life. I don't know where it was like I woke up all of a sudden. I was like, whoa, what's this? And as an Asian, I had all the ingredients already. Soy sauce, vinegar, peppercorns, garlic, chicken thighs. I mean, that at the base of it, that's all it is. But putting those things together was a magical experience. So it's one of my go-tos right now. So God bless the Filipinos, all forever, now and always.
It's quite easy to make, actually.
Yeah.
But if you're cooking pork, it just takes a while.
Yeah.
You gotta let it simmer.
Oh, and you got to throw in a little bay leaf for sure.
Bay leaf, right.
Throw in a little bay leaf. Yeah.
If you want to make it interesting, put a little coconut milk in there.
Oh, okay.
I like that. I like that. So do you put it in? Do you just put it in a regular old pot? Do you do something with an Instapot? Like, is there some magic appliance?
A regular pot.
Regular pot.
Okay. I usually make mine pork and chicken, so I'll simmer the pork for probably a good 45 minutes before I put in the rest of the ingredients or the chicken. But I'll probably simmer the pork usually in soy sauce and the vinegar and the pepper and the salt.
So
and I also add honey.
Oh, honey. So are you getting this from recipes, or are you just winging it? This is like a metaphor for comics too, isn't it? Right?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. No, I followed the recipe the first time, and then I've just been sort of like improvising since then.
Much like creation. I'm sure.
Right? You put your own spin on it. Hopefully it comes out good. Doesn't, you try again. you know. So we're gonna have to do this as a panel, right? We got to do some kind of food panel, whether it's through Zoom or maybe like I kind of aspire like sometime maybe New York Comic Con we should try to do a live cooking show. I think that would be really fun.
That would be fun, yeah.
They may kick us out, but
it'd be worth it. It'd be worth it. Yeah,
Iron Comic Chef.
We got a Korean panelist bring in the kimchi, the Taiwanese stinky tofu, just like really smell up the Javits Center. They will kick us out, wouldn't they?
Oh yeah, 1,000-year-old eggs. All kinds of
fish sauce.
Fish sauce. Yeah, the sky's the limit for sure. I have to laugh. You were joking around bringing beignets to a panel, and you actually did.
I did
in New Orleans the last time we saw each other, and yeah, by the end it looked like Scarface at the end. You know, the panel tables usually covers the black tablecloth. Yeah, I felt bad. We messed that thing so. I think I took a picture of it. In fact,
there were piles of white powder. They must have been wondering what we were doing. We were doing beignets.
Yeah, they're
lines. You're doing lines.
Yeah. They thought these are just a bunch of comic book geeks. Like, no, man. They got crazy in here. For sure.
Yeah, that was good. Who was there? It was Jeff Parker, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
And
yeah, I'm trying to remember who else. It was
so much fun.
Yeah, all I remember is white powder everywhere. But that was brilliant.
Thank you.
That was brilliant. You had coffee delivered. You literally went and got it. And this is the kind of dedication you go to keep us happy.
It was also to keep me happy because I was like, I have to make sure I integrate beignets in here somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
And the Cafe Du Monde coffee. But I timed it wrong because you know how long that convention center is, and I'm huffing it with like all this stuff. I'm like, oh my God, the panel's going to start any minute. And I think some enterprising security guard with one of those golf carts basically had to give me a lift so I could get to the panel on time. It was like it should have been in a reality show. It would have been really great.
So you're telling me you got golf carted to the panel with Cafe Du Monde beignets and chicory coffee to your panel. That's first class service. That's hardcore.
It was like a quarter-mile walk. You know how long that convention center is, and I'm like, I'm not gonna make it.
Yeah,
it's those life skills that Amy and I have because we're older. We know how to
Right. You don't need to make it sound like we're so.
Oh, you're right. Okay. We were seasoned. We're seasoned.
Experienced. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and you guys mentioned the importance of networking before, and I think that's what I really miss from not being at Comic-Cons for 15, 16 months was of course you see your old friends, but making new ones and making those connections, and as much as we traveled, it really did help, just industry wise and work wise, and it's good for the soul as well, but. The importance of networking is something that I implore on pretty much everybody, no matter what I do. And,
let's talk about networking, though, because I think sometimes people, especially creators and artists, have a very funny idea of what networking is, that they have this visceral reactions like, oh, I'm going to sell out. And it's not really, right? Authentic networking is really about making friends, in my opinion. That's really, you don't want to network with people who are kind of like douches and, like you say, don't play nice. I think to me, networking is really about meeting people like you guys, finding some commonalities, and these are the things that I think make industry tick.
I always tell my students, if you feel that networking is not very authentic because you feel like it's very opportunistic or self-serving, then you have it all wrong, because networking isn't about finding people who can help you. Networking is finding people you can help.
Right. Very important. I wish we could somehow asterisk that, replay it, pause it, because what Ramon just said is like so important, right?
And you're looking for people that you can help, and then you become known as the person who can help people.
Right.
And the return on that is what you're looking for.
Right. It's really about, what is your value add? Sorry, I'm going to pull out my business speak, right? What is your value add? Not like, what can you give me? Why should you be giving me a shot? It's really like, how can I help you with your problem? It's really the way people need to be looking at things, in my opinion.
Yeah, you want to be the go-to person when somebody needs help, when somebody needs a resource. If you're the go-to person, that's really all it is, because then people will know you and people will appreciate you. people value you, and then and because of karma, people want to help you later on.
Right. There we go. Another great concept, karma. Do you all
Yeah.
believe in karma?
Oh yeah, yeah. If I mean, if you look at the trajectory, the weird trajectory that my life has gone, I definitely believe in karma for sure. So, I mean, even beyond that, it's fun to help people out. It's
It
fun.
is, right?
Yeah, it's fun to see, you know, people, your friends, or people you meet, you know, 6 months down the line, you know, maybe score a project or just do something awesome, and if you help them get to that point, maybe even in one small way, it's that the amount of feeling, like, it's immeasurable. It's immeasurable. I love that feeling. I'm like, oh man,
Two
yeah,
more,
yeah.
2 more points I want to share on networking. Years ago, Greg Pak told me to build relationships with people at the same level as you, because people who are further along in their careers already have their own network, right? So you build a network with the people who are at the same level as you, and as you all forward in your career, you're each other's, you have each other's backs, and you will be helping each other out. The guy who's like been in there 10 years longer than you already has their friends that they want to help. Every editor has like 10 friends who need work, and they're going to give it to the friends they came up with. So you need to make friends with people who are at the same level as you. So when they become editors, you become one of those 10 friends that they help out. Then the other thing is that you can't network, you can't build relationships with everybody, but what you can do is you can pick the ones that you have great chemistry with. Then it becomes really natural for you guys to build that relationship. It becomes really cool to work together. It becomes really pleasant to be able to collaborate if you find those people you have really good chemistry with.
I would modify what Ramon's saying too, and what Greg's saying is that really you should network with everybody regardless of where they are. Because frequently, especially, you know how some people are like, ugh, they're newbies, I wouldn't want to talk to them. Those are the ones that sort of come along. Next thing you know, they're hiring you.
Right.
So
Yep.
I wouldn't make any distinction, really. It's like, just be nice to everybody,
That's good advice.
It's so, like, it drives me nuts too when I see this. Again, another point about networking. I see this all the time where people do, like you say, they make a beeline for the celebrity, the old timer, the person, and they ignore who's working the table. Who's working the table is usually part of their family, their partner, their spouse, who actually controls what's happening at the table. It's just like the stupidest mistake I've ever seen. It's like, really, you're really exposing yourself as a person when you do that, So that's what I tell my students.
Good advice. I'll have to modify it then.
Be nice to everybody, because you don't know who they are, for one thing, and they frequently they could end up being the one that makes the decision for everything. So.
And it's crazy with social media, especially. I'm getting in contact with people I met 10, 20 years ago, who I never thought I'd see again, and all of a sudden I'm meeting them. It's very simple. Don't piss anybody off, because you may be working for them later on, or you may be collaborating later, and it's much easier if you like each other. You didn't piss them off 20 years ago. They'll remember. It's very hard.
It's much easier to be a good person, isn't it? I hope so. I don't know.
It really is. I wish we could tell everybody this. It's way less stressful, but
for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, so I'm like, right now I've got different projects going on, and like what Ramon was saying, I was like, it's going to take at least 5 years. This one project that I just got, that was a result of 10 years, It was like 10 years of not networking per se, but like kind of making a pitch way back then, and it's finally coming up now. And that's not unusual. I think people need to remember this is, not instantaneous. A lot of stuff takes some time, needs to mature, and the opportunities and everything, the karma everything has to line up. So, these things happen, and it's a great thing. I'm just so pleased to be working with this editor now. So, 2 editors, actually, same thing. It's just taken years, not of being a pain in the ass, but just cultivating, building a body of work. And then at some point, they're like, hey, do you want to do this together? I'm like, yeah, for sure.
I've got a story to tell that's along those lines.
Oh, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
So years ago, I went up to, I think it was the White Plains Comic Con, right? And it's probably like early on, and when I went back into comics, and I met this lady who was a freelance editor at the time. Her name was Marie Javins. Right. And I just kept in touch. We just kept, I put her on my newsletter list, and she didn't unsubscribe. And then I would see her at the cons. I would just say hi, right? And then last year for Diversity Comic Con, right? Our theme for last year was Black Stories Matter. And so one of the faculty was also friends used to be a DC bullpen guy, and he said, they're restarting Milestone Media. You should get in touch with them to see if they'd want to be part of the Comic-Con, of the Diversity Comic-Con. So I still had my Marie Javin's email. So I emailed her and I said, "Hey Marie, I hear you guys are restarting Milestone, and our theme this year for the Diversity Comic-Con is Black Stories Matter." And she goes, "That's great. We're not ready with the Milestone, but we have something else." And that's when they were launching the It's a Bird anthology, right? With Christian Cooper, right? And they were looking for a way to publicize it. So Marie got me in touch with their marketing people, and next thing you know, we have a DC panel at Diversity Comic Con, with Athena, and Christian Cooper, Athena Martinez, right?
Oh, Aletha Martinez. Yeah.
Aletha Martinez, Christian Cooper, and Aletha's son was the one who actually moderated the panel. So we had that panel, and then and that's just a story of I just stayed in touch with Marie. We met probably 6-7 years earlier, and now I forgot to mention, Amy knows this, but Marie Javins was recently became the editor in chief.
Yeah, she's now the editor in chief of DC Comics.
DC Comics. There you go. Yes. So just keeping in touch, being nice, being pleasant, and not being a dick, and and being a resource for people.
And being a resource, like that was the right opportunity. It wasn't like, give me an opportunity, give me this, give me that. That was perfect. So great example. Like it's like we should be in class. You should be telling the story. So
yeah,
awesome. Oh, go ahead, Nick. Sorry.
Oh no, yeah, it's very easy. Don't be a dick. So I mean,
don't be a dick. Let's put that in big, Arial, bold, black.
Right.
And if you think about it, that's how I got Amy to got Amy to give me some advice. Just we kept in touch.
I would give you that advice anyway. We've known each other forever, so don't be a dick. It's easy advice. It's easy.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. If there's one takeaway from anything, yes. And don't sell your advice short, Amy. It's pretty powerful. It's launched people in cool trajectories.
I do say to people, just do exactly what I did. Because it's not like a formula, but literally you just got to put the work into it, and be semi-competent. Be competent. You don't have to be a superstar. That's
exactly it.
Yeah,
one of the advice.
Yeah. It's like there's very few things that you can do. Like in comics, you can publish yourself. That's the amazing thing about comics. What you do will see the light of day. It's not necessarily, even movies now, actually, you can just go on TikTok and do stuff, right? So it's a wonderful time to be a creator now, right?
Yeah, which I saw at the Comics Art Workshop. I think both of us are constantly getting asked, like, how do I start I want to, publish my own comic book. I want to create my own comic book. How do I do it? And we've given them some advice and tell them, it's not that hard to do now, but something like this is a organized online membership course that you've put together. That I think I'm just going to point everybody to. It's like, hey, go to the Comics Art Workshop, sign up this for anybody and everybody, and learn the skills to get your own comic out there. That's awesome. How long ago did you start this?
Well, we've been having guest speakers since 2017,
okay.
But the formal workshop with the actual curriculum was launched back in September. So we have a library of guest speakers, who've come to talk to our group. Neil Adams was one of them. Ross Chast, so a bunch of people. And but I was always looking for a way to make it into an actual class.
Yeah.
But I just couldn't find a classroom space that was affordable in New York City. So when pandemic hit and everybody was doing Zoom classes, I realized, I could just do this online. And so I launched it, and we're now on our second cohort. Well, third cohort, actually. Third cohort. So yeah.
Well, so Ramon, we have a few minutes left. So go ahead. Sure. This is pimp everything that you're doing. We'll direct people to, all of.
Yeah. What are you working on now? What are you working on? What have you been working on? Do you have anything to promote?
Well, aside from, we just finished our Kickstarter for Black Stories Matter, and we tripled our goal. And I'm actually working on production on that today so that I can get it out to the printers. But on October 16th and 17th, will be the fourth Diversity Comic-Con. So we are just beginning the planning stages of that. It'll be completely virtual. The school, and it's different from other Comic-Cons in that it's completely free. The school is basically an initiative from the school. They have a diversity grant that they give out, and so they fund the entire Comic-Con. And part of that mandate is that I can't charge admission. I can't charge for anything. So basically, they pay for everything: the tables, all the marketing, and yeah, that's my ringtone.
The away team needs you.
There you go. But yeah, so it's the 16th and 17th. Amy did it last year. I think you did it the year before too, right? Except we were live, right? Yeah. So that's the only thing. October 16th and 17th. If you do a Google search for Diversity Comic-Con, you'll see all the programs from last year on the site, and as well as the pictures from the previous 2 years. So that's the one big thing I'm plugging right now is Diversity Comic-Con.
Okay, and what's the website? I think it was like
diversitycomiccon.com.
Okay. Excellent.
So that's simple.
And you said it's going to be October 16th and 17th this year?
I think that's right.
Okay.
little frozen. Yeah. All right. And then what about any of your works? Your website. Where's your website?
Let's see. I've got a graphic novel from Benchmark Press coming out called Everybody Has a Hero, but it won't be available in comic book stores. It's something that's going to be distributed through it's something that it's going to be a part in a textbook. It's a textbook graphic novel that'll be given out to sixth graders, I believe. So that's going to be interesting. And is there anything else in the Black Stories Matter anthology I mentioned already is coming out? And I think that's it. Those are the only things really that I'm working on.
Okay, well,
and we have a melody, but there's no guarantee about that yet.
Yeah. Well, Ramon, you are an inspiration, I think, to everyone who has, sort of maybe not done it for a while and is now dipping their toes back into it, or maybe going full throttle into making comics again. Right? Did you ever question that this is not what you should be doing? Did you have
all the time? Don't we all? Don't we all? But you know what? Though? There was a period wherein I was just getting too much. I was just absorbing too much information. I was looking at sales. I was looking at the decline of the industry, things like that. And I realized you just gotta go back down to the basic. You want to tell stories, in comic form, and in the end, everything else doesn't matter. You just want to tell your stories and get them out there, regardless of what the industry is doing, regardless of what the trends are going on. Just, when that's all your focus, it becomes so much easier. You're not worried about, will that be a big hit? Will it make enough money? So just work on your stories. Oh, one more thing I just finished. I forgot to tell you guys. I did finish my grad school thesis, and it's called Comic Books versus Graphic Novels, the difference, the schism, and the future. And the whole idea is that you have the comic book industry, which is Marvel, DC, and all those guys. And you have the graphic novel industry, which is Scholastic and Random House and all those guys. And there's a separation, not just in the format and the business model and the creators, maybe not so much the creators, but the thesis talks about how it came to be and what the future is going to be like. So I interviewed Andrea Colvin, I interviewed John Jackson Miller, I interviewed Heidi McDonald, everybody to figure out what's going to happen for the future. And looks like the future is bright for both industries. So, and hopefully there'll be more cross-pollinating between the two. So,
yeah, thank goodness.
But I'll
And,
probably make that thesis available somehow online.
Yeah, that's something I would not only like to read myself. That's something I'd like to pass on to other people, for sure. So that's amazing. And what a great topic for a thesis. That's what I would definitely delve into. I had one more question. I saw in your bio that you're constantly on the search for the most authentic Mexican taco. Where is that? Because Amy and I are still looking for it.
Well, it depends. Do you want to stay in Midtown or do you want to go up to Spanish Harlem?
We'll go anywhere.
Anywhere.
We'll go anywhere.
Well, I think the best, if you're willing to go to Spanish Harlem, on East 16th Street is Taco Mix, and their carnitas taco is to die for. It's got just a perfect balance of fatty meat in it, But if you can't go up there, right around Bloomingdale's, there is, I think it's something al sabor. It's a cart, and they have two of them. Usually the other one of them is at Bloomingdale's. The other one sometimes is on Park Avenue and like 51st.
Yeah.
And that's pretty good too. But I would say Taco Mix in Spanish Harlem.
Taco Mix. Okay, done.
Taco Mix in Spanish Harlem.
I'm writing it down. I'm bookmarking it. Thank you.
And you gotta get the carnitas taco. They also have tongue.
Carnitas.
But if you're really brave, then you can get the tongue.
Oh, the lengua.
Lengua.
Lengua. It's got to be sliced thin. If it's too thick, then it's too much like tongue. So too much like that. Yeah. That's just me though. That's just me.
Yeah.
Hey, Ming, where are you based out of?
I'm in New Jersey, so
okay.
I'm literally an hour away from you on a good day.
Yeah, so Ming, we got to sort of reprise our last get together before COVID hit, right? We need to actually physically get, since we're all vaccinated now and everything. Ramon, you should come down anytime.
Happily, I drive everywhere now, so yes, I'll come down.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I feel like so I've been drinking out of this mug the whole time. I don't know, Ming, if you recognize this. This is from our favorite. So a little plug for a local small business, Mia Table and Home. They do cute cat. Sorry, I'm like doing this wrong. Tableware, Japanese tableware, and this is one of their more popular offerings. I think they were sold out of this cat mug. I finally got it from my friend here, and so shout out to them because they're huge fans of Ming, not me. They didn't know who I was.
Stop it.
One more thing. Last weekend I just did a panel with Fernando Ruiz.
Oh, Fernando!
And he had the nicest things to say about you, and of course I knew that was true, right?
Oh, wow!
Yeah, Amy's the sweetest lady, so
sweetest lady.
Fernando Ruiz draws for Archie Comics, and he teaches at the Joe Kubert School where Amy also teaches.
That's right. So I'm gonna have to get him a mug.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that Anthony took over the school. He's such a nice guy.
Yeah. I think that the school is doing great. It's doing well. And Ramon, I'll have to have you come. Assuming I'm still employed there, I'll have to have you come and guest lecture for one of my business classes because you're the ideal person to talk about.
I've driven past the school several times, but it's always on the weekend, so it's always closed. I've always wanted to see what the school looks like on the inside.
Well, no, you can go in. So they do classes on the weekends sometimes. They're usually for the kids though. So they'll do Saturday classes. But those are the art classes. I'm not as talented where I can actually teach certainly anything related to art or drawing. But but I will teach writing and I'll teach business. So
there you go. Put to the other panel. Me and Ming will come.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I will.
Yeah. Okay. So, any last words of advice, Ramon, before we let you go?
At the end of my interviews for the Comic Arts Workshop, I asked the guests what's a brutally honest piece of advice they could give, and I think it was Chris Sotomayor or Ivan Cohen. I can't remember who said it, but he said, "Finish shit." Nobody hires people who don't finish it. You know, so make sure you just when you do something, you finish it.
Right.
Because
right.
that's
Finish
that's the whole game right there.
Super important. It can be the best thing ever, but if it's not done, it's not done. It's not ready. So
yeah.
Excellent advice to end with. Ramon, can you share with us all your social media, wherever you lurk in social media land?
Oh yeah. If you just do a Google search for Ramon Gil, but it's ramongil.com is my regular website. And if you do a comic search for Comic Arts Workshop, you'll also find my website. And I'm not very good on Instagram. I post on Instagram sometimes. Ramon Gil Art is the screen name. But basically, if you do a search for Ramon Gil, you'll find me. RAMONGIL.
Yeah,
The only other Ramon Gil online is some neurologist. So that's not me.
So we know which one you are.
I saw you have a DeviantArt page, and you're on Facebook as well under one of your older projects or your current projects, facebook.com as sci-fis. So yeah, I just do the Google search.
Yeah, just do the Google search.
Yeah.
Well, it's so great to see you again, Ramon. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah,
Thanks for being our first guest.
Me.
Guinea pig. Thanks for being our first guest and our guinea pig.
Oh, I didn't know that was your first guest.
Well, no, in this weekend, for the weekend.
Oh, this weekend, okay.
Yeah, so you're
thank you very much, and thank you for doing something for Asian Pacific Heritage Month.
Yeah, no, we had to, right? It's like
one of the things that Amy didn't share was that her and I were very involved in the Asian community back in the 90s. Her with A Magazine and me with the Asian Heritage Festival. So, and I was doing freelance illustration for A Magazine back then too.
So for the Heritage Festival, I managed to get them into the latest DC one shot. I don't know if you noticed in my Katana story with Blue Beetle and
I haven't seen it. I'll check it out.
You didn't see it? I said it at the festival just for everybody who ever worked on that festival in New York City, you know, because of course we couldn't do it this year, but I thought that would be kind of a nice shout out.
Yeah, but A Magazine used to table at the festival, I believe. So
yeah, I think so. I think everyone used to table at that festival.
You know, when I first moved to New York City, my only people I knew in New York City was Brian Wu.
What? Really?
Yeah, and only because before I moved to New York City, I contacted him and saying, "Hey, I'm moving to New York City. Do you guys need an illustration?" And so that was my first. Brian was probably the first guy I knew. And was Hajime Ando part of A Magazine? I don't remember.
Hodge was this is all so long ago. It all runs together. Everyone sort of was with different groups, and we also Hodge.
Hodge was an art director for the Asian Arts Alliance, which Amy was the executive director.
That's right. Okay, so that was, now this is going way back. So and Hodge and Brian were I think they were at Carnegie Mellon together. Anyway, so we don't need to go through like, hey, Brian, hey, Hodge, if you're ever watching this.
But yeah, that's how I got connected to Amy, because they brought me into A Magazine, and then
funny.
The rest is history.
Wow. All right. We will definitely reminisce, because there's stuff I don't remember, because that was kind of like, centuries ago.
Yeah. It was last century, not that long. It was just last century, not centuries, just one century.
Yeah. All right. We're going to let you go, Ramon. It was so
Thank you, Ramon. Thank you.
And then Ming, we should, what else can we pimp? I feel like Ramon was remarkably restrained, and this is kind of like supposed to be a shopping network. We're not NPR and we can't sell anything, right? I mean,
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, the reason I love live streaming like this is that there are no rules,
Right.
Yeah, pretty much. I just love every time I talk to you, I learn something new. I didn't know you were involved with A Magazine. Your resume is long and diverse and awesome. And, we've known each other for a while. Every time, though, I'm like,
I've had like 5 lives,
I know. And I don't know why I was down in Pensacola. Somebody was talking about, the great Macau, Macau, and you spent some time down there as well. And I always love bragging that you were like the head of tourism or something down there.
Oh yeah, Macau, I got stories about Macau. Man, that was like the crazy days. They're still kind of crazy, I think, but
Oh yeah, for sure. And one day I'd love for you to be my tour guide down there, for sure.
I don't even know if I recognize it. The last time I was there was 2019 actually, and I did take some people over there, and it was just transformed. But of course, we got the VIP tour, which I fully didn't.
Of course.
Yeah, it was like, wow. My old boss basically shut down everything for us so we could tour. I was like, wow, you didn't have to do that. I feel very, that's so kind of wild.
Yeah, somehow it's either me or you. We always wind up, it's like, hey, here, would you like a private tour of this? I'm like, well, yeah, of course we would.
They brought out the big guys too.
Yeah, and yeah. It's not like we ask for it either, so it just happens. So and yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, so we should give people a heads up. Who do we have next?
I believe we have Joe Eisma, correct?
Joe Eisma. We can talk more food. Joe, I love Joe. We'll definitely when he comes on, right?
Did everyone you book on here like they're foodies? Because I noticed that. I know we got Jay Lee coming up as well, and Ron Lim, and yeah. I mean, honestly, I think it is Asian American Pacific Islander Month. I mean, most Asian people. I think I've only met one or two Asian people in my life where it's like, oh, I don't eat that. I'm like, what? Yeah.
Right. You're not Asian. I'm sorry. No.
Yeah, that are picky eaters. So I've only met one. I'm not going to mention her by name, but she may be watching, and she knows who she is. So
wasn't me.
No, definitely not you.
Right. So we got Joe Eisma coming up next. Following Joe, we've got Jay Lee, legendary, right? Of which I've shared a few meals with. So we
yeah. So have I. So
right. And then we end with Ron Lim. So it's a great lineup. And I think I had kind of promised. I don't know how we're going to do this. I sort of said on social media that I was going to do some giveaways, just to get people excited. But I didn't really plan what to give away. I have a lot of stuff I can give away. I don't know what people want. So, of course I got comics. I've got, what do you think?
I mean, in my experience, people love anything you give away.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, and you know me, I'm all about like marketing, and I got swag, I got stuff. More so people get interested and start asking good. Not that people haven't asked good questions, but something, or maybe we can do some trivia. I don't know. What do you think?
I love that. Or I just love seeing comments. One of the greatest things about this platform is that if people comment, we can put it right up on the screen. So with that in mind, comment. I think we'll pick out commenters. We'll send you
right. Quality comments, maybe great questions, and then at some point, maybe if we have some trivia that we can ask and somebody gets it right, I'm happy to give them a signed comic or what else. I think I may even have an extra some Death Wish swag.
Oh, I've got plenty of. So
we can promote our favorite coffee as well.
We both love
my
Death Wish
favorite
coffee.
Yeah,
my favorite coffee as well.
Okay.
Oh yeah, they support both of us greatly, and the comic book industry. They publish their own comic book, the Odin Force comic book,
right.
And they've been known to send me some stuff here and there. So yeah, I've got plenty of Death Wish stuff to give away for sure.
Okay, let's do that because I feel like our friends there deserve. And I may joke about being easily bought by lunch, but coffee is a serious matter, and I would not support coffee that I did not enjoy. Right there you go. I mean, right now I'm drinking an espresso because that's all they have here.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with espresso, but Death Wish coffee on one hand, not only is it freaking strong, which I like. There's
the world's strongest.
Supporter of comics in general, and I don't think I've ever seen espresso back a comic. So
no, I mean, well, I we may have to suggest it, but big thank you to Jeff Ayers over at Death Wish Coffee for always being like, hey, we got an event going on. Could you send a couple of things over, and then you'll get like 3 boxes sent to your office, and then you can't give it away fast enough because everybody loves it.
Yeah,